What's up, everybody? I wanted to add a little bit more details on the video I did on suicide and talk about my personal perspective on the whole concept of suicide. Uh, when you hear about suicide and you're thinking about a person, it's like, hey, that person had everything going for them, and because you looked up to them. I remember when I was in high school, going into my senior year, a teammate of mine ended up committing suicide. And you're looking at this guy, he had a football scholarship. He was a fabulous athlete. I always looked up to him, played football with him, I ran track with him. I always looked up to him because of he never gave up. But when you look at what happened in suicide and how he took his life, it's made me kind of think about things in a different way because of the family ended up creating a scholarship under his name, and I ended up winning that scholarship. So the family made me an honorary member of their family. And the thing is that I always look at my life of living my life to a higher expectation and a higher expectation and hold myself to a higher standard because I have a lot weighing on my shoulder that I have to be more and become more because of what has been bestowed upon me. Yet a couple years later, uh, probably about like 10 years later, one of my best friends ended up committing suicide. I talked about that briefly in my last video, and you're looking at the same thing. He was my training partner. I wouldn't be where I am today in terms of being an athlete because he was the I guess he would say he was the main tool of the arsenal. I remember him, like when I was a freshman in high school, he would show up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We were going to the gym. Didn't matter if it was raining or snowing. We didn't want to be in the gym, but we held each other accountable to work out. And then we also worked out also in the evening, went 30 minutes before it closed so we can get a quick workout. And that's when I learned from him and through trial and error of how to train effectively, doing the high intensity training before it was even a popular thing, before even people really knew about it. And yet what ended up happening was by the time I was a senior in high school, I was able to run the 40 in 4.4 seconds. And the thing there is that I became very explosive, and a lot of it has to do with the type of training that I did. And because of that, I was able to propel myself into other things. I started doing Olympic weightlifting. We used to train with so many different things with weights. We would go into there was like this swimming pool, and then right next to the swimming pool was like this training I don't know if you call it a weight room because it wasn't really a weight room. They had weights that were made out of cement, and we would put all the different combinations so we can get 45 on one side and 45 on the other, but they were different combination of plates because we didn't have a full 45 plate. So we made do what we possibly can in order to work out because our funds were limited growing up. And then eventually we were able to go into a gym and where we paid $5 each time that we would drop in. Things were at the time fairly inexpensive to train, and we also trained outside. Then what I wanted to say is, like, right now, it's been 8 years in my life where I had 2 attempts on my own life. And thinking about with what I've learned and through suicide, that what ended up happening, what I ended up doing was I couldn't control my emotions. I reacted, and instead of me being calm in the situation and let it diffuse the situation that kind of occurred. Details are in my book about what happened, but what ended up happening is wanted my wife at the time to feel the stress and the pressure and of what I was going through in the argument that I ran into oncoming traffic to get hit by a car. And the car yelled out, "We could have hit you." And my response was, "You should have fucking hit me." And the thing there is that I reacted. And now going back with doing my introspection or writing my book, I kind of realized those things. And then And then the second attempt, which was on February 15th, was right after Valentine's Day, when I found out my wife at the time was in love with someone else. And instead of me saying, okay, that's fine, I want you to be happy, and let's work whatever we need to do and that type of thing, in terms of you move out, I move out, how are we going to split up assets or whatever, because I'm not going to be in a relationship like that. The thing is I reacted again, where I was told to leave the house, and everything was all planned out between her and the counselor. And what ended up happening is I was packing up my bags, and while I was packing up all my bags, and feeling the lull in my life, my heart was torn into 1,000 pieces, that I ended up picking up the gun and I put it to my head. And that was the day that I killed my old self. And that's what started me into this trajectory of always being better and always learning more, and how to overcome, and realize that I hit the dirt bottom of my life right there, and there isn't anything lower. But yet sometimes you kind of look at it as like right now, I've been unemployed for the past 11 months, and I've been fortunate that I was able to save up money to cover me for these expenses, as well as I had a car accident, had to replace a car. I got injured in that car accident, had to pay for that. So you kind of look at it as, when it rains in your life, that what happens is that with that rain, it's gonna get, and it feels like your life is flooded. All that water and all that flooding is eventually going to seep down into the ground. And so whatever you've planted in your life and what you've been working on, it's going to eventually grow. They might not be happening right now, because it is not the time for that harvest to happen, but you're going through that growing season. You're going through that and you're going to go through that healing season, and then you're going to have your plentiful and rebirth, regrowth, and you're going to be giving back to others. And the whole thing about like what I've gone through is, for me, is a gift to give on upon to others, to express to what has happened in my life, how to overcome that, and how to become better if you're in that situation. And the first thing I always say is reach out for guidance, reach out for a counselor. I know that I still have someone in my life that I communicate with, and I reach out to her, occasionally, but mostly it switched over from certain things in my life to now it's on the business aspects of how do I do these certain things. And because I've seen she had all these great results, so I want to mimic her successes. However, now I just look at it, the whole thing about like dating and finding out who I am. I'm every day I'm finding out more and more about myself, and instead of looking at it as trying to fill in that void of what I had before, where I was trying to fill in this lonely, broken heart, trying to fill it in with something else. Sometimes people use drugs, some people use alcohol, some people use sex. The biggest thing is for the growth to happen is to really go inward within yourself to find out, what happened, how you reacted, what is lacking, how you can become a better man, better woman, how to be a better communicator, how to have better understanding, seeing things from a different perspective and a different point of view. So that's where I have been in my life right now, going through those whole introspections and finding out more and realizing that, hey, I don't need anybody in my life to completely, because I complete myself. I'm already whole and perfect, just like you are whole and perfect, and you don't need anything else. You don't need all these little things, these vices, in order to show who you really are. And if you do looking at these vices of making you happy, then that's when you really need to seek out somebody, when you're at that point in time in your life that you're ready for it, that you can seek out that professional help to find out, why do I do these things and how can I become better without eliminating those things. Like right now I'm seeing individuals saying, hey, let's have a dry January on doing meetup events with like hiking, this group that I belong to, whereas that's my whole entire life. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. I look at it as my drug on life is living my life to the best I possibly can. That means getting into a hot sauna. That means getting into a cold plunge. That means getting into red light, working out, doing many different things. And how can I go ahead and become a better man? But mainly, my main purpose for me is that I have a back problem, that I broke my back, and which prevented me from competing in the sport of Olympic lifting. And that's what was kind of like my main thing that kept me striving, because I was good at it. I was successful at it. And that was the hardest thing for me to do, was to realize that I can't compete in this sport anymore. However, this sport has brought me such wonders of that I'm taking from that knowledge that I gained from this sport, and being an athlete, putting it towards life, and realizing that if I take that same mindset, that I can accomplish and I can overcome anything that's been given to me. So I want to leave you with that information about that. If you're seeking um, uh, guidance, you're seeking professional help, especially when you're feeling that you're down and out, and you feel like that suicide is the only option. Because I know that I thought that suicide was probably the only option, because I kind of felt like I was worth more dead than alive. But in reality, you are worth 10 times, 1,000 times worth more being alive. Because look at the impact that you're having, the impact that you've had, and the impact that you will have upon others down the road. And always, whatever you're going through, your story is paving the path for somebody else that is going through the same shit, and realizing that you are a beacon of hope, and you're that beacon of light. So my friends, you guys have an awesome day. Be about it instead of talking about it, and namaste.